see my screen, maybe give me a thumbs up or unmute. Should be working. But this is a Materio project. So most of the time, if you're coming to this demo, perfect, got a thumbs up. You may have not seen Materio before. You may have seen some videos about us. I want to go through kind of what the difference is here. So I think one of the main differences in how we build out projects, how we work with our team, and how we really get all of the decisions out of our head and out of our team's head and into a system where everyone can access it is using the floor plan or visuals as one of the foundations of a project. So you'll notice over here I have a floor plan. You can upload as many as you want, as many pages, elevations, all of that can be done here. I can also create boards in our system. So I've created this sort of kitchen inspiration board here. This is done in Materio, pulling images from your library. And then second, I've uploaded here a render. So we don't do renderings in our system, but you do have a place to add those in. So all types of project visuals can be added here. And this means that your team is going to have one place to go to see all of that information and your client. The other cool thing is that you can come in and you can kind of organize these. So I can create stacks. I could rename this, boards and renders if I wanted to. And so if you have a lot of construction documentation, you have a lot of renderings or visuals here, you can kind of organize those into stacks so that this doesn't get, super full. It gives it a nice organized framework to add them in. The other cool thing is that as I start to make revisions on this floor plan, if I need to upload a new one because maybe I'm the one doing the drafting or I've got an architect in here with me, I can just replace this floor plan page and then I can keep track of the versions. So you're going to have the date and the time that it was updated. And that's how your team is going to know, okay, I feel like there may have been a different version since then. Let's make sure we've got the most updated one in here. The other thing that I can do is communicate directly on the floor plan. So if you're in maybe the space planning phase or maybe that floor plan layout phase, what's going to work? What do we want to move? You can invite your clients in super early to collaborate with you on this. They can come in and communicate right here. How much are we thinking these glass doors are going to cost? So you can discuss, pricing or design elements or spatial changes and things that need to be done all here with your clients. You can also change this to be an internal or private conversation with you and your team members. And so depending on who's working on the floor plans and who's changing things, this is a really great tool for that. And then as things, are accomplished, we upload a revision. We can always go in and resolve these comments and kind of use that as a system to keep track of what's going on. Now, the other thing about Materio, I think that's super different, is the way that we can start to connect our scope of work with our floor plans or with our visuals. So you'll notice over here, I have this option to sort of outline my project scope. I'm going to use our scope starter on this one, which is a way of sort of giving me some defaults or in a framework for what I'm doing. So I'm going to do a kitchen here. We've got primary bath, primary bedroom, laundry, etc. This is got all the rooms. For the sake of this, we won't go through everything, but you can add these in. Of course, if you have anything custom like, pool house or whatever, you can add that in as well. And then I'm going to hit next. And this is where I'm going to think about what is the work that I'm going to be doing on this project. Now, if you're a designer, you might be offering design services. If you're design build, you may also be doing that as well. If you're more of a design build builder, you might be putting in plans and permits and daily cleanup. All of these, again, are just going to be sort of templated scope items that are going to populate when we finish framing this out. And then we've got electrical, plumbing. Let's go ahead and do some of these selections here. Tile. So again, because I selected some of the defaults, these are showing up as options for me, all the way down to furniture and soft goods. If I were to have selected living room or dining room, I'd get some kind of options there as well. And we'll actually do appliances too. Okay, so I've started my outline and now I can sort of set a preliminary budget for these locations or categories. So depending on how you work, both of those are an option here. You just toggle, let's say you're more of a builder or you've received allowances from a builder and you're doing a spec house. You could also come in and set them this way. So let's say we've got a $20,000 electrical budget, $50,000 plumbing budget. So I can start to kind of spell out what it's going to take to get this house done and ready. And so I can put those in, and this is totally optional. You don't have to do this, but I like to do this because it helps me keep track of where I'm at with the budget. So you'll notice my project budget was 500,000. I set that up when I initially started the project, and I have this kind of contingency or everywhere else. So just optional there. And then depending on how you are structuring your finances, how you're making money, you're going to either be doing project fees, which is going to be a percentage or a flat fee on top of your scope. This is often the way that design build firms are working, especially if they're cost plus. If you're kind of doing the traditional model of wholesale with markups, or if you're a fixed fee builder, you're going to be using our markup function. And this is going to be covered up from your clients. So it's going to be kind of baked into the price that they're getting. You can set your default here, and then we can get into customizing that later. Now, there's always an opportunity to do both, but in this sort of initial setup, we're going to pick one. And then, are you typically buying wholesale? And then, do you collect tax from your clients? So just some financial options. And the reason we do this per project is because you might be doing a project in California, you might be doing a project in Tennessee, Florida. And so there might be differences in what you collect tax on and what that rate is. And also with different clients, you may have negotiated a different rate or a different model of doing business. So all of that can be kind of customized per project. So now I've started to outline the scope of work here, and I can really easily come in and add in items. So I might add in my design fee, and this may actually be hours. Maybe I'm charging hourly, and I'm going to estimate 100 hours on this project with my billable rate of 150, and I'm going to go ahead and just take off my tax and markup on this one. So super quickly, I have an idea of what it's going to cost to have 100 hours of my time on this project. Then alternatively, we're going to start to build out these very specific things. I'm going to add in a location. So I think one of the things to note about Materio is really that within the framework of your scope, you have categories of work, which usually line up to sort of building cost codes or trade categories. And then underneath that, you have locations. And so you can kind of view the scope of work in either or. But because I have a kitchen, I want to make sure that I've got the chandelier that I want in my kitchen and the sconces that I want in the kitchen under that location, so that they show up in the right place later when I start to share and export this project. So I'm going to go ahead and use our plan marker. I'm going to mark the plan. So you can see I'm estimating by doing electrical in the kitchen, and now I'm marking the sconces. So we have a few different types of floor plan markers. For this one, I'm just going to use the point marker. I'm going to do it right here. I'm actually going to make these a little bit smaller, and then I'm going to save it. So you'll see that it quantified 2 units for me. Let's zoom back in here. So I placed them on the plan. This is where I want the sconces to go. It's adding up how many markers I have, and then it is putting it there. And I can say, all right, my cost is going to be $500 for that sconce with a 50% markup and a 9% client tax. And really quickly, I have an estimate for what it takes. Same for the chandelier. Let's go ahead and mark that. We're going to do one big chandelier off-centered here on this, and we're going to estimate that that's going to cost $1,500 with our markup. Now, if I wanted to get really specific on estimating, I can also calculate what I think it's going to take to ship. Do I want to do, some markup or tax on shipping? And you can even get a specific to say, well, my electrician charges me $250 a fixture. Maybe because this is a larger one, it's going to be $350, and I want to put some type of markup on that. So again, you can get really, really specific about the different cost components that go into an item and how much you actually want to mark up or charge tax on certain things. But all of that is going to be baked in for the client to kind of see. Now, before I move into sort of the selections, I do want to go over the different types of markers that we have here. So let's just say that we were wanting to do, let's see if we've got countertops here. So we can also come in and use, we can say it's going to be, $40 a square foot. Now I'm going to come in and mark the plans using the area tool. Because I've just uploaded this floor plan right before this demo, I'm going to need to set the scale. You're going to have to do this one time on a project, and then you shouldn't have to do it again unless you have pages that are of different scales. So this is a 10-foot island here. So I'm going to go ahead and drag it, type in 10 and save. And I'm going to save this as the project default. So now when I go in to estimate how many square feet of countertop I need, I can just drag right on top of this. Now, if I wanted to get really specific and do the cutouts, I could also use our polygon tool for that. But for this, I'm just gonna drag here. And you'll see that really quickly, I figured out exactly how many square feet I need. And if you wanted to add some waste to that, you could. So you can use the markers to help you understand what it's going to take to put in tile, what is it going to take for linear feet of cabinetry, a square foot of drywall or wallpaper. All of that is possible using the different types of markers that we have. And then I'm also going to come in and just show you how easy it is to just do a quick estimate. So it's going to cost, $1,000 for this, $1,000 for that, and I don't actually need all of these. So let's remove. We don't need a cooktop. Actually, we're going to just do a range. And so this is just a quick way to figure out what it's going to take to use your project. Now, oftentimes I suggest being very loose with the initial estimate numbers. So it's going to cost $1,000, it's going to cost $500, whatever it might be, just starting to get a general idea of what it's going to take. Now, if you are a cost plus builder, you're not going to have your markup right here. This is obviously baked in. You would take that off, and then down here is where you would come in and add different project fees. So I might call this my builder's fee, and it may be 20%, and I can save that. We also have the ability to do the general liability insurance, which is calculated a little bit differently, and you can also do a flat fee as well. So even if you are a designer using a markup on your products because you're offering wholesale, you're getting wholesale prices and retailing it for your client, you could also come in and do, project management fee or storage fees, all of those on top of the project. So again, it's really flexible in how you set this up. So once I start to spell out what it is that I need, I start to, mark the plans with where these items are going so that when I get ready to hand this off to my subcontractors and my team later, they can very easily understand, where this is going to go. I can start to think about what needs to go into the project. So we did talk about briefly how we have a board here. Before you start sourcing products, you might want to come in and use your library to actually kind of edit this board. So let's actually pull our board out here and so I can see it. And let's come in and edit it. I just want to show you how this works. So you can see I've got these images in here that I've added in. I can come and pull images from my library. So let's say I wanted to bring in this sconce here. I could bring it in. Now this isn't going to be linked to any scope of work. It's simply pulling images from a library and adding it here so that I can create sort of a concept or inspiration. Later, I'll show you how you can create a board using actual product that is connected to your scope. But I can build this out in Materio, and then I can, save that and present it to my client, get their feedback. They can comment on this as well. We can go back and forth about things that they like or don't like, and then I can start to source product. So over in the selections workspace, anything that has this question mark right here is going to show up as an item that needs a selection. Now, this means that your client is eventually going to approve it. You're going to pull a product in for it, and then it's going to go through the order phase, the ordering process, and we're going to collect payment on it and all of that. So this is a really visual framework for what is needed. And you'll notice that the default here is by location. So here are all of the selections that we need to figure out for the kitchen. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to pull from our library here. Let's say that we've got these two options here that we want to pull in for our backsplash. Then we can pull in some products for our floor tile. Now you'll notice this little pop-up happens. This is kind of in the weeds for a demo, but basically as you're clipping products from the web, you can pull in certain rates, like I've got my markup, labor, etc. And then I can also pull in from the estimate. So depending on what I have in the estimate, for my markup and labor, I can also pull those in. So that's just going to help you keep a really accurate markup based on if it's different for certain vendors. So I'm going to pull this one in and save that. And so you'll notice as I start to add in product here, I'm going to get a nice visual of what's going to be in this room. So we're going to filter down by chandeliers. You'll also notice that in your library, you can create these custom groups. You can kind of set this up how you want to. And so I can filter down by the selections that I want to use. Maybe I want to consider these two options here. So I'm going to pull those in. I'll pull this one in as well. All right. So once I start to have, products in here and I'm ready to get approval from my client, this is where I'm going to take it through the sort of proposal and approval process. So I'm going to come in. I've got a client up here on my project already invited, and you'll see that there's a big yellow banner here. It's like, these are ready to send. Now, you obviously want to kind of check these, make sure they're all good, especially if you have junior designers or assistants pulling these in for you. But then I can send this over. And if I had, a ton of selections in this house, I had lots of rooms, I could filter down by rooms or by categories and share that with my client. When I do this, it's going to clear it out of my open workspace, and it's going to be moved over to this awaiting approval workspace. And this is when your client is going to get an email. Hey, Mary Beth, I sent you some selections to approve. They're going to come into this space and they're going to be able to see the options that you presented. They can come in. I'm obviously looking at it from my view where I can see all of my cost breakdown, but they can come in and discuss this option with you. You can also discuss this internally. So you can use this as a tool to kind of go back and forth on what you even want to present to the client. Once they get it in their hands, it's a great way for you to communicate, hey, I know this one is much more expensive, but I thought that you would really like this one. I can do that, send it over to my client as well. And so once they've come in and they've decided, yep, this is, what I want, these are going to be moved over to the confirmed workspace. So I'm just doing it from my end now, which is good to know, because if you're new to Materio and you decide to adopt this, you definitely might want to play some catch up with previous projects. So know that you can come in and mark these as approved yourself. You can very easily add in product. You'll also notice, looking at this item, that I have some attachments here. So one thing that's super cool is as you clip products in, you can clip in those installation instructions, warranties, tear sheets, whatever you need to add in. You can clip those right with the product, save them to your library even, so that if you use it across different projects over time, those instructions and documents are always going to be there. So I'm going to approve this. And the other thing you'll notice is that when I'm approving, and for the clients, it's much more visible because they're not seeing this information, but you get this context of what's already been approved in the space, which is nice because as they're making decisions, they can see, what did I already pick? How does this go with that, etc. So once these are all approved, they're going to be moved over to this confirm space. And this is where you're going to start thinking about, have I collected payment on it? Have I ordered it? What's the status of it? And this is also really cool because your clients can also see this workspace. Now, they're not going to see as much as you are, right? They're not going to see any POs and things like that, but they will be able to see the status. So has it shipped? Is it received? And this is a great way for them to be able to come in and see where things are at on the project so that they're not having to ask you a million questions about where things are at. Clients love Materio. They love that they can easily see where the project is at. They love the visuals. They love that they can communicate in very direct ways with you. And so this is a big, big selling point of Materio, is just how much the clients really like the interface that we provided them, and a tool for them to be able to feel like they're heard, and also they know where their investment's going. So here is a selections workspace. You can also view this in a table, which is more of a list view where you can kind of just see more information about that. Now we'll talk about getting these things out of the system and getting them into the field in a little bit. But right now, what I want to talk about is maybe the next steps in this. So we started to build out our project. We've started to source some things. We've sent this to our client for approval. We have the confirmation that this is the pricing that we want to go with. These are the products we want to go with. Now it's time to make sure that we have collected payment for this before we place those orders. So I'm going to head over to the finances tab, and under billing, you'll see that I had previously collected a design retainer here. So you can do that through the system, collect retainers, and basically use that as a credit as on your future invoices. But I can come in and go ahead and send an invoice. And I'm going to title this, let's call this kitchen. You can call it whatever you want, but I'm going to come in and add in items. So all of my scope that has a dollar amount on it, whether it's approved product or not, can be invoiced for in our system. So at the beginning of a project, let's say that you've estimated everything very thoroughly. you could collect a 20% deposit against your entire scope of work. So you could operate sort of that way. A lot of builders do that. Or you could do more of a method of once things are approved or once they've met a certain status, then I'm going to collect payment on them. So I'm going to filter down by selected here, and I'm going to add these in. Since these are approved, I want to collect payment, and I can easily decide I want to collect, 75% of this, which will primarily cover my cost here, or I could collect 100%, whatever. You've got this here, this tool for you to kind of decide what you want to collect. And then I'm going to add it to the invoice. And so I'm going to send this over to my client. You'll notice because I had that builder's fee on there, I can leave that on. There may be times where you're collecting for your time billing or other things and you don't want to have that fee on top. You could always turn that off if you wanted to. And the other thing you'll notice before I send this invoice is that we do have online payment options. So we have an integration with Stripe. You can collect payment via Stripe this way. And so the default is going to be that the client covers the fees on most of those, but if you wanted to absorb those, you definitely could. So I'm going to send this over to my client and it'll be labeled as sent. Now, the other thing you'll notice here is that we do have a QuickBooks integration, a QuickBooks Online integration. So if you've got your QuickBooks connected, that's going to sync over your invoices, expenses, purchase orders, and your bill payments against those POs. Those are all going to sync over to QuickBooks. We've got a great integration there. You can always open those up over in QuickBooks and take a look at them. So a lot of your project management financials can happen in Materio by your team. And if you have a separate accountant or if you're the one managing your accounting in QuickBooks, it just seamlessly pushes it over there. And that makes it super, super easy. For the sake of this, I'm just going to come in and say that we received a check. And we're just going to save that payment. So now you'll see that it's paid. And if I go over to my selections workspace, you'll also see that all of these items are now paid. So we have, we're up to date on our payment here. Let's go ahead and place some orders. So I'm going to head over to the order section. You'll notice that I have some auto drafted purchase orders here. The way that this works is as items are approved, they're going to be auto drafted by vendor into your order section. Now, actually, before we do any orders, I'm also going to add in one quote. I want to show you how this works. So let's say that I wanted to do the electrical labor. I'm going to add that in as an item. And let's just say that we're going to quote it as 15,000. Now, there's a variety of ways you can add in this item, but for now, we'll just say that we have labor and that it is outside of any location. So anytime you have a group labor item, let's say like electrical labor, and it's going to cover all of the fixtures in different locations, you could just keep that outside of the location. And then I can come in and I can add in a quote. So I'm going to add in a quote for this labor. I'm actually going to do this for all of this labor together. You'll see that my quote comes in. Next, I'm going to confirm the prices, and I'm actually going to put the amount that is over here. And then I'm going to say who the vendor is and when it expires. And so I'm going to save this quote in, and I'm also going to go ahead and approve it because this is the vendor that I want to go with. And you'll notice that the cost is going to change from the initial 15,000 that I estimated to the 19,000 that I'm now estimating. You can choose not to push the cost over, but I'm going to push this over to your client. Oftentimes, you're going to be getting those quotes in before you get the final sign off from your client anyways. So now my labor is in there. You'll see my cost is up. I still have my markup on there as well. So I have an approved electrical quote. So now when I go back to orders, I just wanted to show you that both approved products and approved quotes are going to auto draft here into the order section. So you can send orders, work orders, or purchase orders for both product and labor through the system, and those are all going to sync over to QuickBooks. So let's just go ahead and open up one of these items. Let's actually do, see if we have a vendor. Yeah. So when I have an actual vendor contact, it'll look a little bit different like this. I can go ahead and, preview this email, what it's going to look like to my vendor. But the one thing I wanted to note is that sometimes when you're first speccing an item, you may need, different pieces that come with it. So when you get the invoice back from your client, let's say that, from your vendor, we're going to say that we already purchased this and we're going to add in an example. This is just going to be an example, so it's not going to match exactly, but let's say that we got our invoice. We went to AJ Madison, we went to the website, we ordered this product. And when we did that, we had to order a separate component here. Like this was actually a product and it was linked to the range here. we're actually going to paste in the information here. Maybe it was the connector. Maybe there was a gas kind of connector pipe. So we can put in information here, add in a detailed description if we want. Now it's going to look like we're adding in the range again, but you'll see that it's a connector, and we can go ahead and say, all right, we spent $120 on this. And so we're going to be looking over here at our invoice or our receipt from that vendor, and we're going to be matching those prices and adding in any additional specifics that we need to cover. So you can always add in and customize that as well. And then you're just going to make sure, okay, did we pay, any amount of shipping? Did we pay any tax? You want to make sure that all this lines up. And then you're going to hit confirm over here on the top right. Now, in this case, I could save it. But if I've already made payment on this, I'm going to go ahead and put in that payment information. And if I'm connected to QuickBooks, I'm going to link this to my spending or my purchasing method. So whether I use my Amex, maybe I use my business checking, whatever it might be, I can go ahead and add that in and save it. And so when I do that, it'll ask me if I want to update the status of this range from approved to ordered, and I do. I want to go ahead and mark that as ordered. So if I go back over to my selections workspace, you'll see now that that status has been updated to ordered, and I can see the PO directly linked right here. So all of the information is going to be really connected. As you sort of do the documentation and make the things happen, they're all going to live very seamlessly together in the system. So now let's say that I got notified that this has shipped. I'm going to come in and I'm going to put in who this is coming. Maybe this is actually coming via freight. Maybe I've got some kind of tracking information. This has shipped. Let's just say it shipped today. It's expected to come on Monday. And I can actually decide if both pieces or all of the items in my order are shipped, or is it just one of them. And I'm going to save that. So I'm going to say that this is shipped. And you'll notice that I still have a second item, which I can always come in later and add in as a second shipment. So I'm going to save that. And it's going to, again, last time we went from selected to ordered. Now we're going from ordered to shipped. So that's going to keep those statuses up to date here as well. And then you'll also notice that if I have a timeline, it's going to put the delivery of that range on my timeline. So you're going to be able to see shipping information here as well. And you can always come in and, change when that is going to be delivered. And it's also going to show up down here as an upcoming delivery. So as you mark things as ordered and shipped in the order space, those are going to sync over to your timeline again, so that everyone looking at the timeline can be super informed about when things are coming in. All right, so that is an order there. The other thing I just wanted to call out is that if you're using QuickBooks Online, again, sometimes this happens with subcontractors, so it's one use case I want to share. I've got my approved quote here. I'm going to actually send this over to my electrician. It's going to have the order information. It's going to have the quote that was attached. If I actually want to add in any kind of detailed description here, like scheduling information, I can add that in as well. I'm going to save that, but that's going to show up underneath the item. So if you want to add in information about when you want to get it scheduled, or specifics about the labor or what it covers, all of that can be added in right here. I can send this email over to my electrician and let them know that I want to commit to that work. So now it's been sent. They can submit an invoice back to me if they'd like to. And then also there are those moments where you definitely, they respond to the email, they don't want to use Materio, or they just didn't understand it or something. You can come in and just add in, we'll just add in an example here. They can add in their receipt, you can add it in yourself. And then, those times on a Friday where, your subcontractor calls you and they're like, hey, I need to get paid. If you're a designer, you might not know what I'm referencing, but with a design build firm, it's like Friday, I've got to pay my guys. Can you kind of pay me for some of this that I've already completed? I can come in and do a partial payment. And another cool thing is that if I'm using QuickBooks and I'm using my business checking, I can just do this print check later in QuickBooks, and that actually adds it to the print queue in QuickBooks. So your accountant can just quickly print out that check and they can swing by the office and pick it up. So I love that feature. I think it's super handy for the way that a lot of people work. And I can very easily track partial payments. I could obviously come in and track remainder, balances, all of that. I can do as many payments as I need to on a PO. Because this is labor, I'm not going to note it as ordered. I'm just going to save it. So that is how the order functions work. And again, these are also syncing over to QuickBooks Online. So POs are being created in QuickBooks. bill payments are being created in QuickBooks, and all of that is going to sync over really, really seamlessly to the system. So that's orders timeline. The other thing I should mention is if you are not tracking your time, I highly encourage you to consider tracking your time. We do have a time tracker in here. Whether you're billing for it or not, I think it's so important to know your numbers and understand your financials. And so we have the ability to do that within the system. Let's say that I'm working on estimating and I want to make sure that I'm calculating how long it's taking me. I can use the start stop timer where I'm getting very, very specific. I can also come in and manually add time. So I might say, okay, well, I didn't want to do the live timer, but I spent 2 hours estimating today, adding in notes for that. You may or may not charge for that, so you can make it billable or not. But I just wanted to let you know that that is here. And it actually makes it really, really easy to invoice for the time. So if I go back to my finances, I can super easy pull in, the hours that I've logged to a project. I can even adjust my billable rates here. I can decide if I want to add things in or not. Now this is unbillable here at this time. So I may want to just showcase, hey, I worked this amount of time and I want to add it to the invoice, even though I'm not charging you for it. So all of that is possible here. There's so many ins and outs that we could kind of cover in Materio that I think we're not going to get to in today's demo, but I wanted to show you most of sort of the basics. Now, the other thing while we're over here in the finance tab that I want to showcase is the overview. So this is going to give you a great view into what your planned project expenses are and where you're actually at. So, what are we estimating? What's my projected revenue or gross profit here? What's my actual, where am I at? And then there's going to be a really detailed itemized view here of, okay, you've spent 19,000 on this purchase order, or you've collected this much for the chandelier, and here's the money that you're making. So all of this can be broken down by item. And then also you can get a really good idea into your selections budget. So as you set up budgets for different selections or fixtures, you can come in and see where things at, where's your client decided to go over. Maybe they've extended their budgets on the selections, and maybe they have stayed on budget. Now, depending on the views you've given your client, they can sometimes see this as well. That's all about if you want to do that or not. And then under expenses is going to be any of your time tracked, your purchase orders, and then any other miscellaneous expenses you're adding in. Let's say you you booked a flight to go see a client, or you went and printed out plans, or you went and grabbed screws at Home Depot. All of those kind of miscellaneous one-off expenses can be added in here. They also can be added from our mobile app. So that's really handy. And then if your project is live, we make tracking change orders super, super easy. That's going to show up in your finances tab as well. All right, we are coming up on our 30-minute mark. I will go a little bit further today since we're still here. I just want to cover the timeline. So the timeline is a really cool feature of our system. It makes it so that you can create planned tasks and phases of work, and you're going to be able to, again, track your task and your deliveries on this timeline. So I'm going to actually reset this timeline altogether, and I'm going to use a template. So you can create templates in the system. Let's say that we are doing this design template that I've created here. You'll notice that I have all of these phases of work that I've created. And under those phases, I have things that always have to happen. So if you know that during client onboarding, you're doing client intake, contracts sent, you got to get them signed, you got to collect a retainer, all of that, you can put those in as planned tasks, and then you can assign them to the person that's responsible for them on this project. So it's a really cool way to think ahead and make sure that you have all of this spelled out from the beginning. And then if you're doing a lot of the same types of projects, you can go in and reuse those templates and then come in and customize things as you wish. The other thing that's really cool is that we do have built-in dependencies. You can easily remove these if you want to, but that just means that if our client onboarding, let's say this phase shifts, we push back the project a week, everything else that is dependent on that is going to shift as well. So this is a great way to give a preliminary sort of timeline to your client. Hey, this is what we're thinking. These are all the phases that are going to go into the project. And if they decide to shift the date, easily move all of that as well. You can add in other tasks as well. So I can add in just miscellaneous one-off tasks for this project here. The cool thing about the plan tasks is that they only show up on your personal to-do list if they're assigned to you when that phase starts. These other tasks are just going to be general to-dos that are needed for this project, and those are also going to show up over here on your dashboard as well. And you can just say, great, that's done. This is, maybe this is in progress. You can edit these, you can bring in attachments. Let's say you're returning something, you need to present a return label and assign it to your junior designer to go run the errand. That is all possible here in the system. So I know that we have sort of breezed through things today. There's a lot that we didn't cover. We didn't go into tracking leads and signing contracts. All of that's here. We didn't go into, what it looks like to send a change order, but we have a lot of videos on this. If you haven't already, check out our YouTube channel. We have quick tutorials on there that are usually 5 minutes or less. We also have demos like this that'll be up, and we tend to cover different things. We have training sessions, usually once or twice a week. Those are hour-long training sessions. So if you haven't signed up for Materio yet, you're curious about it, please give it a try. It's free for 14 days. And then once you get in there, you can join those training sessions and get up to speed on all the nitty-gritty details in the system. So I hope this has been helpful. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us at hello@materio.co. We are always here to help, and we're excited that you're curious about the system, and we hope that you try it out. Thanks, everyone.